What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the eAssist Dental.MBA podcast, where I am spending time with some of the amazing people in our profession. And we're talking dentistry, but we're talking business when it comes to dentistry. And we are very fortunate today to have Judy Mausolf with us. How you doing, Judy K?
I'm awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on. And as we are now in these winter months, I know one of your themes, I always, like to talk about this, is sunshine, right? You're such a positive person, and that's something that always, kind of follows you. So we're going to talk, some positive sunshine today, but we're also going to get into the, really the crux of what you know so very well as a dental practice coach, and that is the business side of dentistry and how important it is. So what we're going to do, everybody, as we go through, have a little back and forth with Judy K and I as we share her insights. So where we're going to get started, let's Judy K, let's have you share a little bit about, yourself. We'll kind of tie that into your journey as a dental practice coach, where you started and all that good stuff.
Well, I started my career in dentistry in the early 80s. So probably way before a lot of you were born, I was just thinking about this. In 2022, it'll be 40 years that I've been in dentistry. So I was like, wow, that's a long time, But I absolutely love the industry. I was a practice administrator for over 25 years, and then started my own business in 2006. And initially was going to be a full-fledged practice management consultant. And what I really found was that my excitement was in solving all the stuff that most people want to ignore: the drama, the gossip, the stress, the chaos, the dysfunctional relationships. Everybody calls himself a family. It's like a big dysfunctional family. And so that's really where I spend most of my time now. I understand all the nuts and bolts of dentistry, because you have to be able to understand that to be able to help people through it. Because you can't just say, be happy, darn it. It doesn't work that way. You have to fix the things that are creating the discomfort or the chafing or the things. So that's kind of my journey. And now I really focus on primarily on coaching and speaking regarding culture, anything to do with the relationship side of dentistry. So I've created a format. It's called the Culture Camp. That is a process that works extremely well for helping teams launch their culture to the next level. So that's a little bit about what I've been doing.
Well, I love that. And, we're going to get into some of the challenges that you've had here in a second. I want to connect back to what you talked about with culture and get your thoughts on the time that you spent in dentistry. As you know, Judy K, for years, there was always this discussion that, as a dental practice owner or any of the clinical team, when it came to business, it was like, oh, they didn't learn that in school. It wasn't a part of what they did. They wanted to be clinicians and work on patients and so on and so forth. But how have you seen that change, right? And I think it ties into culture, because, as you know, for a lot of these practice owners, particularly last year, which we'll get into here in a second, they realized the importance of the business side. But like you mentioned and focus on so well, it's got to be a part of your culture, right? If you're going to take the business side of the practice seriously, it has to be a part of that culture. So I'm just curious how you have seen that change and transform in your years as a coach.
Well, I'll tell you truthfully, I haven't seen it change as much as I would like to see it change. There's so much to learn in dental school, as far as being a clinician, as far as what you do, just making a crown, a good crown, just getting through those things. The focus is so, geared on that, because that's their livelihood. And I've had the privilege of speaking to dental schools and speaking to some of the people ready to graduate, the dentist, and even talking to them about, you realize that you're really going to be doing two jobs here. You're going to be a producer and taking care of your patients, and you're going to run a business. I don't think until they step into it that really hits home. And I think for many, it's budget, because they're getting out of they have a big student loan. A lot of times they have, the overhead if they're opening a new practice, they are joining. So they're very mindful of where their dollars are spent. So it's hard for a lot of them to want to reach out initially for help, which would make the biggest difference in the outcome they get. So a lot of times they end up with a culture by default and not necessarily by what they want to create. And then they start to realize, whoa, this isn't what I was thinking I wanted, right? This didn't turn out, so that's what I'm seeing a lot of.
It's interesting that you share it like that, and especially from a culture perspective, because I think a lot of times, as new people, new employees, new team members come into the practice, and there's a particular culture, and maybe they can be frustrated at first, right? They think these things aren't the way that they should be, or they left another practice where it was. And to your point, it's that culture that's created sometimes on accident, right? Just because of a lack of knowledge or information or confidence or what have you, not necessarily the fact that the practice owner does not want to build that in. But it does seem like it just stresses the importance of the work that you do, and understanding the living, breathing thing that is a culture, even around the business part of the practice.
Well, and John, to tag on to that, is what I see so often, and this year especially, there has been a major disruption in who's working in the practice. There with COVID, with all that, it's been a crazy year. And we're still trying to make it through. We're like, I'm hanging on. I want to get there, right? But what I see is there's such a change, and where maybe once was one new team member, and I think about this. I'm always trying to look for analogies that would make sense to people. And doctors, it's their responsibility to create like the outside of a puzzle where all the pieces are going to fit in. That's the core values. That's the principles. That's what the treatment that you deliver, the service, the level, all of that needs to be defined by the doctor. And in most cases, they're so busy producing that someone more vocal in their practice starts to create that culture, if you know what I mean. The squeaky wheel creates the culture. And what I'm seeing, especially this year, and I've been doing a lot with that, is helping transition new team members with existing team members. Because now it's not just one new team member or one new piece to the puzzle, which even one is difficult because they try to put it right back into the same spot if you visualize that puzzle, and they're not the same person. And they're trying to push that in and force it, and it doesn't work, right? And so when we're bringing multiple team members in, then it's like the old team and the new team, and there's these battle lines of how do we work together? How do we fit together? So I'm doing a lot of work with that. And I think that doctors are so busy just trying to get back into the swing of things that they have missed one of the most important things, and that is defining to their existing team members and their new team members all together what their expectations are for them working together. Because all the chafing is pushing back and forth, and it's like it's a power play for sure.
Yeah. I always get good gems from you when we talk, and the whole analogy on the puzzle piece I love, right? I saw that right away, right? Their responsibility to kind of create those outside pieces, and then all the little ones in between those are the challenging ones, right? Most of the time, get those borders done. Filling in those middle pieces is really hard.
Well, and the middle pieces is where I tell the team member, don't expect your doctor or manager to create your relationships for your coworkers. Part of you being the piece in the puzzle, and yes, I call them a piece, I'm sorry, but part of them being a piece of the puzzle is they have to learn that in and out, like the puzzle pieces, there's an in, there's an out. How do they work together? Where's the give? Where's the take? And what works with this person here doesn't necessarily work with this person over here. And that's why I like the example of a puzzle. And I kind of like to have fun with this stuff too. I found a puzzle that has a squirrel on it because, of course, our attention span is that of a gnat, right? so I use that. It's a children's puzzle. It's about that big, and it's maybe got 10 pieces. So I kind of use that when I'm working with teams and saying, okay, you got to figure out how you fit in here. But I think that's one of the best analogies that I found this year in helping people work together and having the team understand, because the doctor has to work. They can't be babysitting people all day long either.
Yep, absolutely. All right. So somebody like yourself gets the experience to know how to inspire culture from just going through your own life, right? Your own career, your own challenges and the things that you've accomplished. Would love to have you share two challenges that you have had to overcome as a business coach. And I think more importantly, how they have helped you continue to excel and maybe even lean on, right, from time to time, as you continue to face new challenges.
Well, I think because I'm not your typical practice management coach, there's a little more sometimes discussion on value, on creating that value. As a rule, if it affects the bottom line and they can see how if I do this, I get this amount of dollars, that's a much easier sell as a consultant than it is, you're going to all be happier and work together better, right?
Yeah.
And there's a definite outcome, there's a definite, on the average, about a 20% increase in bottom line. However, to tie it directly to that is difficult. Unless you tie it to less turnover and the cost of turnover and all of that, but still it's much easier. Like when I started out, people saying, well, okay, that's like a rah-rah. It's like, no, there's some rah-rah in this, but you have to have your team to be able to work together, to be able to communicate, to deliver at the level of performance, and you'll hire, and the savings will be less team members needed as well. So many times we're hiring extra team members because this person doesn't want to help that person,
Yeah. Yep.
But so that would be one, I think, is the difference, because it is focused on the culture and the relationship side. And I think with all of us, it's just about, there's so many things that need addressing as, dental practice. We want to, as the doctors, they want to keep up with the technology, which has gone skyrocketing in price, and we want to keep up, on equipment and all of the things that we need to be able to communicate successfully. And this year, again, many, many more things needed because of virtual connections with patients and that. So a lot of learning curve in that. So there's only so much time and resources and money, all of that we, that a person has. So it's, where do you fit into that puzzle, right? Another puzzle.
Yeah.
But so there's all that. It's not that the doctors a lot of times don't want to make a difference. It's just like, what can I focus on first? Where do I need to go? So I would say those are probably my two biggest challenges.
Yeah, which is interesting because you know this better than anybody. When you look at successful people in any field, right? People that have worked it out, grinded it out to get to where they are, rarely do you see those individuals did not have mentors or coaches or what have you. It's just commonplace, But you bring up a good point. I think that it is important, to recognize that it's not that they don't want to bring on somebody, like you said, they don't see the value of it. I mean, I think, sometimes the way that you present things, it's no more than just that aha moment that somebody gets that could change, like you said, the actions that they take. The puzzle analogy is one of those, which is, oh my gosh, you know what? I've been going through this whole time and I didn't even realize I did not set the framework for my team and create those values. We've just been kind of, going like hamsters on a wheel. We never created that. So that in itself, Judy K, as you know, is valuable in its sense, but it is interesting, to hear from your perspective, and hopefully, as we move forward in this, profession, people are continuing to see that. All right. So last thing, we all would love to be in person at these conferences. So we're going to have a little fun here. We're going to act like we are in a room full of a lot of the colleagues that you and I know, both dentists and hygienists and office managers and coaches and consultants. And so you are in this big giant room, or at one of the ballrooms at one of the events, and you are asked to come up on stage to just give something very simple. And that is just one bit of advice, and, share with exactly, right? Like you're in front of all these people, they know you. They're like, you know what? She's sunshine. But they're like, what has she got today? So share that with everybody as far as kind of where we are, in the profession right now with the work that you're doing, of one piece of advice you would share with your colleagues.
So, well, first of all, if it was my first time on stage, I'd be bawling like a baby because I can't wait. I sincerely can't wait to get back on stage. I am going to be, I know I'm just going to be a mush mess. So, I'm going to have to wear a lot of waterproof makeup that day. But I think the biggest thing, the shining North Star, the clarity that I have, whenever I'm working with the team and culture is that we must treat each other as well or better than we treat our patients. There's no exclusions. There's no exceptions. It doesn't matter how wonderful of a performer they are. If they're toxic to their coworkers, they don't get to play on the team. And so when I give another analogy, I'm always, like I said, always looking for analogies. I think of like the safety net that firefighters hold, right? And somebody's in the window ready to jump. Not that we want anybody in the window ready to jump, but every team member on the team has a hold of that safety net. And they're all responsible for having both hands on and really focused on taking care of the practice, which is what could fall into that safety net, the practice, the patients, and each other. That's all part of it. Yep. So when they choose to be Jekyll and Hyde, when they choose to be, they turn it on for the patients and then they turn to their coworker and they're just, the filters come off and they're a monster to them. And I see this a lot. They're actually taking one hand off the safety net. Or if they show up late because they have stuff going on in their life, not that anybody else does, again, they're taking that hand off the net. So I'm trying to always share how important that is, that they're all in there hanging on to it. Or if they choose not to, then they can't be a part of that team. So it really is, it's that expectation that we put the niceties back in, that we escalate the expectations of how we treat each other. And I always hear this, and this is probably one of my biggest pet peeves. Well, Judy K, we are women. And I'm like, wow, really? Yes, we are women and we're powerful and we do amazing things. And if you're going to lessen the standard of how you want to show up, that's not my vision at all. I mean, we're the ones who recreate babies, not this one. I have a dog, but we're the ones who make sure we continue on. I'm like, come on, ladies. And we're still primarily ladies in the dental culture. We need to step up and stop the little girl playground stuff and be the professional women that we are. So there, I kind of went off on a rant.
Hey,
so, I'm dropping my first time back on stage, and it felt so good.
The mic drops. People are rushing to the stage to give Judy K a big hug. They're like, "Thank you so much. That was amazing." And then we wake up and there's no conference. We're still in the pandemic, right? But anyways, the most important thing is for the sake of this recording. Awesome stuff as always. It's a true pleasure to have you come on here. And I know everybody that's going to watch this, the eAssist team is super appreciative of you coming on, and everybody that watches this. A lot of great gems. Play this over, share this with your team. Judy K is always out there doing good stuff to make the profession better. So thanks for your time today.
Thanks, John.